Welcome back to No Lift Garage. I'm Gartrell, and today I'm here with the car that needs no introduction, the Porsche 911 GT3. Over the past few years, this car and many other Porsche 911s have gained infamous reputation on the internet, claiming to be the most visceral, driver-focused car that there is on the market. Today we're going to be reviewing it to find out whether or not the Porsche 911 GT3 is all hype or one of the best cars ever produced. Now, before we get into any driving or impressions about the car, let me give you a few facts about the car. So first off, the car that we have here specifically is in GT Silver Metallic. It is a 991.1. What that means in terms of transmission is that this is the PDK Porsche Doppelkupplung, sorry if I can't say that correctly, transmission. Porsche did not offer this car in a manual transmission, which was one of the pitfalls of the 991.1 GT3 era. With enthusiast outrage, they did correct this in the 991.2 and start issuing a GT3 with a manual option. So any 991.1 you would ever come into contact with, like this one, is the PDK. Now, some people say that the PDK is absolutely worth the money. The feel that you get out of this versus a manual is very, very different, with crisp shifts, nice blips and sounds of the throttle, and fast response when it's time to downshift or upshift, especially if this car is being used on the track. This specific car is finished in GT Silver Metallic, which in person, it is a very striking color. There are other colors that are obviously more striking, I would say, like Miami Blue, for example, but I think that GT Silver Metallic on this car does it very good justice. The car has 20-inch wheels, has full leather interior, sport chrono package, a PCCB or Porsche carbon ceramic brake kit, noted by the yellow brake calipers in the front and rear of the car. It has a front lift suspension, PDLS headlights, and the owner of this car chose to upgrade it with a Soul Performance for the exhaust and the GT3 RS spec taillights, which are finished in red. This car originally came with clear taillights. Some more facts about this specific GT3 is that it has red stitching interior with a full leather package, as I noted before, with Alcantara inserts, or Racetex as Porsche likes to call it, on the headliner and inserts of the seats. It does have 18-way adjustable seats, which is the more comfortable option as compared to buckets, which are an option in this car, and has deviated red stitching to match the red seat belts of the car. The owner of this car has also chose to fit it with a Titan rolled cage, which is actually very well created and comes with a very nice plaque, might I add. And that is for chassis stability and, in the case of a roll, to protect the driver from being injured. This person does actually track his car, which is how this car should be driven, if I have any opinion to that. And I think that he has done a very good job maintaining, keeping this car clean, despite the fact that he actually uses it. The 991 GT3 features the MA1.76 engine. Now, this is the first time Porsche has gone away from the Metzger engine that was used in the earlier 911 GT3s. The earlier Metzger engine had an external dry sump and a split crankcase. By the way, for those of you who don't know what a dry sump is, basically the motor doesn't have a pan in which the oil sits or returns to. It is consistently in cycle due to pumps and internal reservoirs depending on the model. This is to help prevent oil starvation in high stress environments where a car might be on track and need to be sufficiently lubricated in order to stay in an optimal operating range. The Metzger used an external dry sump system with a split crankcase. The M81.76 uses an internal dry sump with a one-piece crankcase. So ultimately, the Metzger engine was a more race derivative engine, while this is more of a modern and refined engine. Both have the characteristics of revving out to well over 8,000 RPM, with the M8 1.76 actually reaching a higher RPM range throughout its rev range, getting close to the 9K. That gives it a high-pitched sound that everybody loves on these flat six engines. That being said, the Metzger was characterized as a more metallic and visceral sound. This is a more smooth and refined edition of the flat six engine. Early editions of the 911 GT3 suffered from valve train issues, from rocker arms with materials that weren't robust enough to handle the high revving nature of this MA 1.76, and were replaced with the later G engine, which basically fixed that, finger follower, and other issues known to affect the E and F series engines on these cars. This car has the G engine, which means we might be able to have a little bit of fun with it without worrying if it's going to burn down or break. It is the most refined and reliable engine out of the E, F, and G series engines issued for the 911 GT3. Now, let's get into first impressions. We'll do a walk around, interior, sound, and then we'll take it out for a test to find out if this car is all hype or if it's worth every single penny and one of the best cars that you can buy for under $100,000 and slightly over $100,000. Now, I'm truly excited to be reviewing my dream car. But I do want to find out if everything that I've been seeing on YouTube about it is all hype or if this is one of the best cars. Starting with impressions and around the car, it is striking. It has a nice, low, and aggressive stance for a sports car. Now, I own a 911, as most of you may know, and this one is definitely wider. Actually, it's 50 millimeters wider than the 991.1 Carrera and Carrera S generation, so it does take a little bit more of an aggressive stance. I do like it. Walking around the car, it is in very good shape, obviously. The color stands out. It's not a normal silver, and I think that most of the colors that a Porsche 911 GT3 come in, especially from factory or from paint to sample, do make the car look very, very sporty. Now, other cars in the price range, such as G80s in some cases, and some Ferraris and Lamborghinis, definitely have a more aggressive stance. But I think that the look is more of a refined and tasteful look. It doesn't scream, I'm super rich. It doesn't scream, I'm poor either. And it doesn't take the level of aggression or stance as some of the higher end cars like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and McLarens. It's exotic without looking exotic, if that makes any sense. And I think that that is something to say about the car. I think it is a little understated for what I've heard this car is capable of, but other than that, I do love the styling of this car. All in all, it is a Porsche, has the silhouette of a Porsche, and does look extremely fast standing still. Now, continuing on to the rear, I do really like the way that the wing sits low, but when you stand up, and I know you can't see me right now, probably, but it still looks very aggressive. It doesn't scream GT3 RS 992 with a giant swan neck wing. It's subtle, but aggressive and stated very well. So I think that it fits very well in the car. You can get upgrades for it, like the Manti Racing wing, which gives it a very much aggressive slope here and wideness and thickness, as well as end plates that dictate that you have a MR and a lot of money to spend on it. I think the wing is very well stated. It is very sleek. However, it is large enough to add presence to the car. As you've seen on my 911 and other 911s, having the flat back with vents isn't very aggressive, and while the spoiler does go up, it doesn't really make it stand out anymore. So I really like what they did adding the wing as they have to other GT3s on the 991.1. The center exit exhaust screams race car, in my opinion. I think most cars with center exit anything, whether it be at the bottom of the bumper, the center of the bumper for more expensive cars, or anything coming out towards the center of a grille makes the car, stand out and look more aggressive and sporty. I also like the sleekness of the taillights, definitely more aggressive and has gotten more and more sharp as the years have gone on for the Porsche 911. The shape and design of the 991 GT3 bumper is definitely aggressive. However, again, still understated. It doesn't scream in your face. It just makes a 911 Carrera chassis look a little less sportier when you're looking at the front of a 991 GT3. The shape and design of the front bumper are largely unchanged from the 997 generation and basically carry right over into the 991 generation. So it bears some resemblance to its predecessors in that way. Does that make it over or understated? I don't know. You let me know in the comments what you think, but I like the car for the way it looks. The large 20-inch center lock wheels also add an element to it that is unlike other Porsches and unlike a lot of other exotic cars. I really like the styling of the wheel. I like that the PCCBs have the yellow calipers, and the carbon ceramics look really good when you get up close. And yeah, I don't have any qualms with the exterior. I think that first impression wise, it gives sports car, and I think that's what a car that is in the $100,000 plus price range is supposed to do. So let's move on to the interior and see how that feels from a first impression standpoint. First impression sitting inside the car, it is hugging me, and I'm 6'3". Now, coming off of my 911, 997, I would say that these 18-way bolstered adjustable seats definitely feel a lot more firm in the lumbar and upper rear back section. So that is definitely a great first impression. The first thing I want to know when I get inside of a car such as this is that I'm going to be held very well while I'm taking fast turns, driving straight, and that I'm just not shifting around in my seat very much. Also, first impression about these seats as opposed to a carbon bucket, which I have sat in before in the 991.1 GT3 RS, is that these definitely feel a lot more comfortable and something that I would want to get in, sit in, and drive for hours as opposed to the back-breaking 991 GT3 RS buckets. So great on Porsche for that. Now, the feel of the steering wheel feels very premium. I like the leather. The leather stitching, the leather all around, as well as Alcantara, gives it a very elevated sense. Now, something that I want to say in terms of, is this what you should expect out of a car of this caliber, is I think yes. However, the problem is not all cars are going to be spec'd in this way. So the one that you might get might be very bare bones. It might not have luxe touches such as leather on the door sill or the colored stitching to match the seatbelts, or maybe not even a sport chrono. So I think the way that a car is spec'd is really going to drastically change, you know, whether you think that this car is all hype or whether you think that it's justified in having this reputation. And I think that Porsche does a really good job of putting together an interior that is, I don't want to say plain, but it's elevated. It's not basic. It's not 997.1 like my Carrera with some plasticky bits and things of that nature. So I think that whoever spec'd this car, because this owner wasn't the original owner, did a very good job. And kudos to my brother for picking up this edition because it is very well spec'd and gives me the essence of what a car of this caliber should be like, for sure. Alcantara on the glove box, carbon fiber inserts. These are all the things that I would want to see. So I think it passes the interior test. The roll cage is a nice touch, makes it a little sportier. However, I think that I couldn't recline far back sometimes, and sometimes I like to be a little bit further back, but that's just me. I think that the interior definitely gets a pass. I don't think that it's hype. I like it a lot. I think I've been in a Lamborghini Huracan before with a less luxurious interior than this one. I remember driving in Huracan and thinking, why do the buttons look so plasticky? And that is not the feeling that I am getting sitting in this GT3 right now. So Porsche, shout out to you for knowing how to make good interiors. And I think some manufacturers out there need to take a lesson And I think some people need to spec their cars a little higher if you can afford it, because this is really, really nice. So now let's move on to everybody's favorite part. We'll start up the car and hear it, and let's see if the sound of this car is something that is overhyped or so good, because now I'm actually making the car make that sound as opposed to hearing someone else do it. So I think there's a little bit of a, difference. Again, this is my dream car, so I'm geeking a little bit, but I'm trying to keep an unbiased opinion. And so far, the car is living up to the expectation that I had of it. Okay, so now we're going to start up the car and listen to it and see if this sound is worth it. This is the Soul Performance exhaust, as I said. It is valved, so we'll do it with the valves closed to start, then we'll open it and rev it then again so you can hear both sides of the engine. I'm going to leave my microphone back out here, so you will not hear me talking. Just listen to the sound of this flat 6 MA1.76. I hope you enjoyed the sound. It did sound pretty good from where I was sitting, so I hope it sounded even better for you guys. Now, we're gonna do our favorite part, which is actually take this thing out for a drive and see how it feels. See how it feels from a practicality standpoint, see how it feels from a sport perspective, and then just get overall impressions of the driving and function of the car. Now remember, the Porsche 911, 991.1 and 991.2 GT3s come with rear steering and adjustable suspension from the factory. They're not a true coilover, but they do have some height adjustment to get your ride dialed in for track or street use. So we'll be taking that into account and understanding that it might not have the level of comfort that you would think, but I think that that might be a characteristic of what these cars are supposed to be like. So I'll try to give it to you unbiased and exactly how I feel it. So let's get to it. From a practicality standpoint, the car is smooth. The suspension feel is that of a Porsche, that of a 911. I don't feel like I'm in something like a spaceship. I feel like I'm in a 911, like a bare bones 911. I don't feel like uncomfortable. The bumps are that of a car that has a sports suspension. I feel nice and encompassed by the car, like the car is hugging me, which I think is a nice feeling, especially from a sports car of this caliber. I think that this car feels great. Bare bones, just getting into, normal driving mechanics. If I need to go to the supermarket with this, if I need to go to say hi to my mom, or I'm just meeting up with a friend for lunch, like this is a car that can do that. And I've gotten that impression right away. I think it carries the Porsche, the bare bones 911 feel, but it's slightly elevated, it's slightly more refined. I think the interior, as I was alluding to earlier, is very comfortable. The seats are comfortable. My back isn't hurting me because we've gone 4 blocks and these are not like carbon bucket seats, which I think these fully adjustable 18-way seats are the way to go. It's not like it hugs my body, but my back is not screaming for help. When I was in the Huracan, for example, when I was in the 911 GT3 RS passenger seat, it felt like I was going to need a chiropractor after driving or sitting in those cars. So I think from a practicality standpoint, the car is very good. You could do whatever you need to do in this car. It doesn't feel like you would be, it's not a chore. It's not hard work. It doesn't require the effort and thought of like, oh my God, I got to take out my XYZ car, And I think Porsche has done really well in that regard. I'm gonna put it back into regular driving mode for while we're on the street.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, you don't usually you don't shift back into one or into two at like low RPMs. You wanna because you're almost forcing it.
Right.
You want to do it at the right RPM.
Right. I feel like that's definitely more of a sport thing to do. Like let the car do its thing while we're on the street.
How smooth it is to drive,
it's so.
This car is so dailyable. Any person that's not an enthusiast can drive it because the transmission is so smart.
Yep.
And you won't get that in cars from this year, per se. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, per se.
Yeah.
You won't really get that where it's, non-enthusiast proof.
This is definitely, from a practicality standpoint, a car that I would choose for the money. So in that regard, I know what people buy the Porsche 911 GT3 for is not for how can I get around in it. For some people it might be, but I think a large part of it is the driving feel, the characteristics of the engine, the way that the car steers and feels in cornering. It's empowering, right? Now, I'm sure when we get to like a place where we can open it up just a little bit, it will, we'll be able to see those things that that the internet has been raving about and hailing the MA 1.76 and the GT3 for. But I think from, again, like the perspective of can I just hop in and go? Absolutely. Am I going to be pissed off that I did? No, because it's comfortable. I don't have to think. I don't have to be, and even just the perspective of the car. Like I look out to my left, I look out to my right. Visibility is great. I'm not, even with this camera on my forehead, visibility is great. Try this in a Lamborghini. Try this in a Ferrari. You cannot see anything. Like even with the cage in the back, I can just check over my shoulder. I can know if a car is, to my right or to my left in my blind spot. So I think practicality, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because I never want to say that something is like perfect, right? I think everything has its flaws, but it's hard to find one at this moment in this car. We've been driving for a little bit on the highway and we've been talking about just like what the car feels like. And at first I gave the impression that, I thought that this was going to be the type of car that, it's like very supercar-esque, difficult to drive. And in the car, it just feels like a 911. It's comfortable to drive. You can just cruise. And I don't want to call it underwhelming, but it's not like this visceral machine until you get on it a little bit, and then the brakes are right there to bring you right back down. This is insanely good. And I'm believing the hype. I'm believing all the people that have told me that my dream car is everything and more, and it's really great to see that Porsche just cruising in manual mode, 5th gear, 56 miles an hour. It doesn't feel like a chore to drive. It feels like I can hop, like anyone can hop in this. You can hand this over to your mother, say, Mom, go get groceries, and she'd be able to do it no problem. 0 issues. And I think that Porsche has really done a good job of blending a secret weapon, a supercar in disguise, like kind of in disguise, right? The Porsche is the businessman supercar. That's like, I wear a suit and tie, I get out with a briefcase, I go to work, I get back out, and then I rip this thing home, right? It's not the Lamborghini that, you know, you're flashy and you probably got 10 other people working for you type of thing. And you're out there. It's in disguise, right? Like, people pass us by, they probably think, oh, like a Porsche. They have no idea that this thing will put you in your seat, make you feel feelings, just being in control of it. I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm sold on the internet's view of the GT3. I'm driving it like how I would drive my base 911 997. It doesn't feel any less comfortable. It feels a little bit more luxurious. I think that warrants the price tag that it comes with. But then everything else is just pure race car. Insanely quick. And right back to normal life. Right back to regular driving. This thing is incredible. I wish you could see how big the grin on my face is right now, because it is just, they did their thing. They did their thing with this car. And I'm just so glad that, you know, I'm not driving it in this way, but the owner of this car gets to track this car, because this is the type of car you need to be bringing to the track. I could drive this to the track comfortably, passenger and all, tell them hop out, do 160, come back like it was nothing. And that is incredible. All right, I'm gonna shut up. I think that, you know, point is kind of proven with just being in this car for maybe 20 minutes and feeling how it can do in low speed, feeling what it could do when you get on it. And I just want you guys to hear the car. That's it. Just listen to the car, because that's the selling point, really. It was just revving out and it had more to go. Oh my God. Insane. What? Holy. After driving it, I'm convinced that this is probably the best car that you can buy that is not a Ferrari, Lamborghini, or McLaren. It is the best car in the sub $100,000 range up to $150 plus thousand dollars. You can drive this to go get groceries. You can drive this to drop off your sister at work. You can do so much with this car from a comfort and usability standpoint, and then be able to absolutely push it to the limit. And I know that this was only off of a short time driving the car, but the feel is unmatched. It is a Porsche bred car through and through, and they have done their magic with the MA1.76. In a sentence, this car is not hype, it is the real deal. Everything that people have been saying about it online, the reviews, my review, and just all of the characteristics that people are describing about this car, I believe are true. And I am so grateful to have been able to drive this car and hear it and feel it for myself firsthand, not just seeing it on the street, not just being a passenger in one. And quite literally, I am obsessed, and there's a reason why this is my dream car. I hope one day I get to own a 911 GT3 or GT3 RS, and till then, I'll be working as hard as I can to get one. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We will be doing more reviews of other cars, so please subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. Like, comment, let me know what you think about the GT3, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.